Today is a very big day. I get to shower for the first time since my collarbone surgery. Praise the Lamb. Like I'm shedding, like holy smokes. I haven't showered my hair in days and there's so much hair just falling out. Oh my gosh, you guys, I never knew what an absolute luxury it is to have clean hair, shaved armpits, washed face until this week. It's been humbling to say the least. My knees and my body just got pretty scraped up. This is 2 weeks out and you can see that it's starting to heal up. It's so gross, I know. But I've been doing a few things to help with scarring because I don't want long lasting scars on these areas. They were just such big abrasions. So I called my mom and I said, Mom, what do I do about scarring? And she said, Allie, better than any sort of scar cream out there is just getting vitamin E. So I've been taking vitamin E orally, but I've also been actually taking a capsule, taking it and poking a hole in it and then applying it to the areas that have been scarring. And I just put fresh vitamin E oil on, and let me tell you, it's a bit oily. So I rub it in on all my scarring. And what I've actually found to be the best is to place a Band-Aid over it, because I guess actually it does better if it's not so exposed to the air, but also it's so oily, you don't want it to get on everything. Almost 2 weeks ago, I got into quite a bit of a mountain biking accident. Elijah and I were mountain biking one evening and it was starting to get dark as we were coming down the hill. So we were kind of booking it down the hill. And I went over one roller and I saw the second roller right after it. And I just panicked and I just pulled my brakes, but I pulled my front brake. And I went flying over the handlebars. And I remember midair thinking, this is what they talk about. When you pull your front brake, you're just like doomed. Landed on my shoulder. I'll make this very long story short. I broke my collarbone. As I was, yelling for Elijah and he came running back, I tried to get up myself and just began to feel like I was gonna pass out. So Elijah had to carry me back down the mountain. We were probably like 1.5 miles from our car. And so he had to carry me and then put me down and then carried me again and then put me down, because it was like so uncomfortable to be carried over his shoulder, then so uncomfortable to be carried like this when you feel nauseous, but you've also broken your collarbone, but you don't know it yet. We get back to the car, make our way to urgent care, and within an hour, they let me know that I've not only just broken my clavicle, but I've broken it in 3 places and I'm gonna need urgent surgery. I had surgery on Tuesday, so it's been 4 days since my surgery. And today is the first day I get to shower and, oh my gosh, just feel like slightly normal human being again. It's a luxury I didn't know I had. It's been a wild week. It's been a wild, wild week. And I would just love to have ourselves a little Saturday morning coffee chat like we often do. I am gonna just kind of finish getting myself a little bit ready and then let's just chat. Here we go, guys. Okay, girls, let's have a little chat. I'm ready to talk. Oh, I know this looks uncomfortable, but this is actually very comfortable. So pull up a seat, grab your cup of coffee like usual. Also, look how cute this mug is. But this is so cute. Look at the little heart handle. So precious. Okay, ladies, someone DM'd me a couple days ago and asked if I would speak to this question. They wanted to hear more about how not loving yourself affects your relationships. Now, if you have watched any of my videos, you have seen that that's a journey that I went on. It's something that I've had to walk through. I really had to learn how to love myself really well. And just in particularly, it really was something that did affect Elijah and I's relationship. I was deep within the journey when we started dating, and I really had felt like I had come to a place where I truly did love myself. I loved myself, but I still had a lot of fear that if I showed Elijah the places that I was still a little bit uncertain about myself in, that he wouldn't love me, that it would be too much for him. And really what that did for us in our relationship is it just didn't benefit the relationship. It left a lot of just almost like a wall between us because I wasn't fully letting him in. And he felt that. He could feel that I wasn't actually bringing him in to the depth that he wanted to be brought into. Now listen, there's totally normal phases in a relationship where you wouldn't tell people certain things and you wouldn't bring people into certain areas of your heart in your life because you're building trust. So it was normal that I didn't pull him in on everything. But there came a point where it was like, okay, Allie, we've been dating for a while and things have gotten quite serious, but I can still feel that you're not pulling me in all the way. And I just in my own life hadn't fully accepted the fact that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay that life is just hard sometimes. I remember in that season trying to escape the pain that I had been feeling, and Elijah in a way was a bit of an escape for me. Like when I spent time with him, I didn't have to think about the pain and the hard things in life, and it was a really challenging season in my life. I was going through a lot of stuff with my family and personally, and it was just hard. It wasn't my best season. It wasn't my best self. And I always felt like things just kind of needed to be perfect. It needed to be perfect for him to take the relationship, or for us to take the relationship a step further, for us to, become more serious. I needed to feel better about my situation and about my season. And the reality is, it doesn't have to be that way. I will never forget when Elijah told me that we were talking about getting engaged, and I just felt like my life, my season was not perfect. And I remember Elijah just in tears crying, saying that that's what makes it beautiful, is that I get to choose you in the mess of it. And I just remember starting to cry because I realized, oh, he's not asking me to be perfect. He's not asking me to have it all together. That's a pressure that I've put on myself, and it's actually hurting our connection and our relationship. So in a way, yes, it was something that I really had to walk through in our relationship, and I saw how it affected our relationship in the negative, but I also then saw how it benefited our connection and our relationship when I began to just own who I was and where I was at and bring Elijah into that process. I remember Elijah really in a lot of moments being quite frustrated with me and telling me, Al, this isn't gonna work. I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to bring me in. And when I began to believe him and I actually began to make that change in my life, I began to see the fruit of it. And Elijah really taught me how to be vulnerable and how to be authentic in relationship. And he just is so transparent about where he's at and what's going on inside of him. And it took me a while to get there. It takes a lot of courage to own your story. And maybe you're somebody that's out there that, is in the same boat where you're afraid that if you were to tell somebody the depths of your story and the things that scare you about your story, that they would abandon you or reject you. Man, I get it. But what's on the other side of owning your story, going, this is my story. Like, there were parts of this, sure, I had control over it, and there's parts of this I had no control over, and I'm owning it, and I'm going to share this with you. And what's on the other side of that is beautiful. Like, things that are valuable cost something. And for me, that was often my vulnerability. It cost me to be vulnerable. It cost me. I was uncomfortable. I was scared. I was nervous. I was putting my heart on the line. I was having to almost what felt like do a trust fall. Just jump out of the airplane and just trust that I'm going to land and that it's all going to be okay so many times. But I will tell you, the more you practice that, the more you realize that it's not that scary. It's not that scary to own your story. It does take a lot of courage, and it does take a lot of bravery. But on the other side of that, it's beautiful. You'll have connection and relationship that you wouldn't be able to have if you were still holding things tight and not owning them and not sharing them with other people and not bringing people into your story. Because it's when we are vulnerable and when we bring people into our story that we actually get to experience the connection and the type of relationship that we were created for. Like, we were created for this. So I would even begin to look at it like this. The enemy wants to keep me from having the depth of relationship that I was created for. One of his tactics in doing that is trying to keep me from being able to open up my heart and share it with other people. He tells me that it's not going to be okay, that people aren't going to accept me, that I'm going to be rejected and abandoned if I fully open up my heart. But the truth is, on the other side of that is the depth of relationship that you were created for. We are all, as human beings, longing to be able to share our hearts openly and intimately with somebody that's trustworthy and that loves us. We are all longing for that. And it takes practice in sharing those parts of our heart. And of course, there's different people that you would actually bring into that circle. Often we talk about it, I guess Elijah and I talk about it in a way where we talk about like the different levels of your heart, and I wouldn't let certain people into that core level of my heart. Like Elijah, a best friend, my siblings, those are people that I would bring into the core deepest parts of my heart. I see when we don't love ourselves and when we don't own our story, it just creates a wedge in our relationships. It just puts a wall there. It's almost like you can't go below the surface. So we just stay at surface level. And if we can't go deeper than the surface, our foundation isn't going to be very strong. When we want to build a firm foundation, we have to go deeper than the surface. We have to be able to lay a foundation that isn't just on the surface. It has to go below that. It has to have roots and dig deep and be strong and firm. And so I would challenge you, if there's been parts of you that are hard to love, I would first own that. Just acknowledge that this is a really hard part of myself to love, and I would even share that with somebody. I'm scared to tell you that I really struggle with this. When we bring things into the light, they're just not as scary. Have you ever just been in the dark and you're like, what is that thing over there? You flip on the light and you realize it's your dresser. That's what often happens. When we keep something in the dark, when we keep something hidden, it often looks and feels way more scarier than it is when we flip on the light. So I would encourage you to bring it into the light. Share it with somebody in your life that's really trustworthy. I promise it's actually going to be very healing for your heart, and it's actually going to encourage you and even catapult you in your healing journey and in your journey of learning to love yourself. So you guys, you got this. You are made for deep, connective relationships with people in your life. And sometimes, yeah, it feels scary, but I promise you have what it takes inside of you. Okay, on that note, until next time, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this little coffee chat with me this morning. As usual, don't forget to like and subscribe this video. I also love to hear hear in the comments if you enjoyed this video. So give me a little comment. Let me know if this was helpful for you, if you'd like more videos on this topic of learning to love yourself, and if so, what specific questions do you have about this topic? Until next time, love you guys. See you then.